Yo.
I can hear.
I can hear you, dude. How you doing?
Right?
Dude, tell me, okay? Tell me, give me a little, you said you're like with Protoss, and Protoss is rugged, but, tell me a little brief explanation of, what's going on, dude.
Um, really enjoying your Browns to GM series. Really enjoying how you're breaking it down and the fundamentals and everything. And this is my way to give back, like to coaching um, and I get to learn.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, dude. um,
Um, I'm ZvP player, around 4200 for like ever.
okay.
Um, my best matchup is ZvZ with like 60+%. ZvT is 50-50, and my weakest matchup is Protoss,
Okay.
which is like 40%.
All right. Uh,
Um,
sound.
I'm on EU.
Okay, I was about to say, I'm gonna get on Europe right now. But sounds good, dude. We'll, uh, we'll start working out some ways to crush the Protoss. It's gonna be glorious. I guess we can just like start it up. I just got on Europe, so I'll give you my my details really fast, so you can add my account. 1578. There you go. I just put it in Discord, so you can just copy pasta that crap. But yeah, dude, fuck yeah. Protoss is. I'll just say this. Protoss used to be a matchup where I was massively confident in it myself. I was like, damn, dude, Protoss, I'm like a 90% win rate against that race. It's so easy. And then things happened. Protoss is a lot harder to deal with nowadays, but it's still doable. But yeah, we'll definitely try to get it figured out for you. See what's going on in your games.
My biggest problem, like, I get flustered when they start like if they do more prism or DTs, I lose the rhythm.
Yeah. Are you high or high rock, by the way? Just to make sure you're the right person.
Yeah.
Okay. Protoss is definitely a race though that can just punish you really hard. It's a big part about Protoss is just like making the proper counter before the whatever is gonna hit you shows up. Like if it's, for instance, like if it's gonna be like adepts or something, like you need to have something ready to go before it shows up, because if you react to Protoss after things happen, you die. That's just literally how it goes. Fucking. So we'll look at your builds. We'll definitely break that down and make sure your build is looking pretty good, and looking at your reactions and what you're scouting and stuff. But yeah. Let's see how this is going. I like the neuro face on the hatchery and the neuro W. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
This literally just happened. This guy's above my pay grade.
Sure.
At 4700, and it was a very one-sided game.
Okay. Well, we'll see what's going on. Are you like a speed link type of player to open with?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your build so far is fine.
He goes for a very quick double gate, which I respond to with about 10 links.
Sure.
Maybe too early.
Double gate almost always means he's gonna adept harass you as well. And the last thing you want to do is lose drones. But like another thing that's really good against double gate is your first queen's energy at your natural should always be a tumor as well instead of a inject. Like we'll see what happens, I guess, as it goes. But okay, so we don't see a natural yet.
Yeah, this is where I start rolling.
Yeah. And then, okay, so that's a big sign too. So I would say you have made 4 lings already. You have 2 more in production. I think this is actually fine so far because he double chrono boosted his gateways. The fact that he's double chrono boosting his gateways, it means he really, like that first of all tells us that he's not really cranking out probes like crazy because he's saving energy to chrono gates, which is going to delay his next even longer. than it normally would. Because he hasn't even started the Nexus yet, and your natural's done. And it's already got a queen that's like almost done as well. Like this is a late as fuck Nexus. So your Ling production now is honestly fine. I would say making more is also going to be fine right now. I'm totally on board if you make up to like 10 to 12 Lings right now or something like that. It really comes down to your energy usage though on your first queen, and also your positioning of your units when he gets to your base. We'll see how you do it. You never want to leave creep though, really. What's up?
I think I injected here, even though in theory I do remember that I guess early to adepts I need to spread more creep.
It's never a bad idea anyways to spread creep from your natural right away to your third. Just because if you're gonna go for a third as well, it gives you more mobility to like cover it properly, and it also just gives you faster creep spread in general. But if you do inject first, I would say it's okay against standard Protosses that don't do something really aggressive. But if you ever see someone who does something that looks aggressive, always at least put one inject and one tumor. And it's yeah, the tumor at your natural is way more important than tumor in the main, because it gives you more of mobility to actually push the adepts away from your drones. Because this is the way it kind of works. Let me just explain this really fast. Why adepts can be really annoying. There's two ways Protoss players micro adepts. There's one way where a Protoss player knows what he's doing, and there's one way where a Protoss player does not know what he's doing. The Protoss player who doesn't know what he's doing will usually do something where, if you look at everyone's vision right now, let's just say the two adepts where they are right now, let's say they don't walk into your mineral line, but instead they shade into your mineral line, and the adepts kind of just stand outside your base near like your third or fourth base. And then your Lings run after the shade, and he goes, oh, cancel. And then he does it again. You chase the shade. Cancel. That's a player who doesn't know what he's doing. But there's a lot of players who do that. The player who does know what he's doing will shade into your main, and at the same time walk into your natural.
Yeah.
And then that will force you to take fucking trades that are going to be like, okay, well, I have to fight this now, because otherwise I have to run my drones away. It's annoying. And you have to then split your Lings, which is really hard to do when you have slow Lings. So like basically the creep tumor at your natural, what it allows you to do is it allows your queen to be further forward, so you can smack the shit out of the adepts like way faster, and not have your queen be really slow off creep. So it can like get around really quickly too. So it makes the adepts actually get punished for doing something like this, and it makes the adepts have to shade even earlier, is why this is important too. Because the earlier the adept has to shade, the less time it has to actually walk into one of your bases while it shades to a different one. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So yeah.
Should I be pulling the queen from my main in this case?
No. Queen from your main should stay in the main, because the adept shade is very likely to go to the main, and if he does commit to it and your queen's gone, it's gonna suck for the main.
Okay.
What I would say you should do right now is, it makes it hard. Like taking some damage. I'll just say this: taking some damage is going to be totally standard for you. It's acceptable, okay? Because this dude, he fucked his own economy up quite a bit to attack you this fast by double chronoing the gates and delaying the Nexus. So if you lose like a couple like we're talking like 1 or 2 drones, it's actually okay. It's kind of like expected to happen a little bit. If you lose no drones, it means you played like a fucking boss here. Obviously you don't want to lose a lot of drones though, but the best way to micro this, I would say, would be to do something like if you had let's say like 4 Lings in your natural with a queen, and you focused 1 adept, and you had another 4 Lings go to the main and chase the shades. And then if he doesn't actually commit to the if he just cancels the shade, guaranteed your 4 Lings will die, and you will kill 1 of the adepts if your queens and Lings all attack 1. If he does let the shade finish, both adepts will go to your main, but then 1 of the adepts will be almost dead. You can pick it off pretty quick, and then it's way easier to micro against 1 adept than it is to micro against 2 adepts. So splitting your Lings 50-50 would have been the right way to deal with this, is more or less what I'm saying.
Okay.
It makes it really annoying because you don't have speed yet. But yeah, you have to chase the shade, and again, like that's why I was saying too, chasing the not chasing, sorry, making the amount of Lings that you did is totally fine. I actually like it. You made 10 Lings so far, and you completely shut him down at your natural, but you would have shut this down at your natural anyways with like 4 or 5, and then your main would be not actually, because I imagine now what's gonna happen in your main is you're gonna probably start losing drones, and you're gonna have to run the mineral line.
Yeah.
And if you lose like literally like 3 drones, this becomes now like I would say like again 1 or 2 I think is okay, but if you get to the point where you lose 3 or more, it's gonna start getting excessive and you're gonna start falling way behind. And every drone beyond that's gonna be even further behind. Yeah, it's 5 now, or 6 rather.
Yeah.
It's rugged, dude. Rugged life. You gotta chase the shade. Adepts are fucking annoying. Okay, I feel for you, dude. Like I fucking hate that unit. Yeah, it's rugged. Now speaking a bit more about your scouting, all right? So that like we talked about, you know, the adept, what we got to do there. It's the most frustrating thing before you have speed, but now you do have speed, so you don't have to deal with it very long. But your overlord, when you scouted he was going double chrono boosted gates, it's very unlikely that it's going to be stalker heavy anyways. So a great thing to do would be to run your overlord into his main base and just honestly try to get a read behind what is happening already. Like try to get a read on if it's going to be a fast Twilight Council, if it's going to be a fast Stargate. I would say I wouldn't mind if you leave your overlord kind of like hidden like this. If your plan is to go for a really fast overlord speed as well, then you wait for overlord speed and then go. But if your plan is to go for, you know, like you're ripping drones off gas once you get speed because you're going to maximize your minerals, I personally prefer that more, to be honest. It's okay if you lose your first overlord, which only costs 100 minerals because you're prioritizing minerals anyways. But like 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a read on his build so much more if you just send the overlord into the main. And if you would have seen, okay, this is a Stargate with voids. I'm going to ask you a question really fast. Okay, I'm going to quiz you for a second, and then we'll talk about it after. If you actually did scout right now, okay, we got a Stargate with voids. What would actually be, and also you know he's going adepts, what would be a response in your mind that you think would be like a good way to go from there?
Roach Queen.
Okay. How many roaches we talking?
Depends on how many adepts I see, but 10, 9.
Okay. I would say a good. You're not wrong. Okay. I do agree with what you're saying, but I would just to elaborate on it even more. I would say a perfect way to play against this would be you have your lings already, and your lings do not want to attack him. They just want to like make sure you can delay his third even longer. Just be really, really, really annoying with basically being like your third's gonna be super late. You can start a Roach Warren. I would say like when you can afford it, like your larva comes first, but then you can start a Roach Warren later. Because you got to think about it like this too. If this guy did not open with a Twilight Council and instead he opened with a Stargate and he's going to go for unupgraded Adepts and Void Rays, the Adepts are way less threatening. He does have 2 gateways though, which is why I still agree with the Roach Warren. But you don't have to worry that much about the Adept timing hitting you like really early because he already lost 2 and there's no resonating glaives. So for now, definitely Larva is your priority, not making the Roach Warren ASAP. But then once you do get Roach Warren, I would say you could probably honestly make like 6. Like if you make like 8 or 9, that's getting a little excessive because this isn't going to be mass Adepts. It's only going to be like, if it is going to attack you at all, it's going to probably be like 6 Adepts max with like no upgrade again, as we were talking before. But then just droning your ass off is the correct way to go here. Like making a fuckload of drones because he can't really punish you for that. And then maybe like throwing down like honestly 2 extra queens for creep, or maybe 3, because I would not even making spores at all, because voids get shut down by queens so hard.
That's something I've been struggling with lately. Is after watching Bonds to Jam, I've been really trying to maximize my larva usage.
Yeah.
And suddenly I used to have more queens, and now I have a lot less. And I get them later, so like my creep spread is suffering. I was wondering, when do you cut? Well, when do you delay like larva for queens?
You could be like right now. You could have actually made another queen out of your natural, like pretty quickly after your first queen at your natural finished. So you could have gone up to 3 queens pretty fast. And then if you had, for instance, this game, if you would have done tumor first, by the time your second queen spawns and then it throws down a tumor, you'll already have now 2 active tumors, and the first tumor will have spread twice already. So you could have creep already like connected from your natural to your third Pretty much. Like if you were thinking like you put a tumor down at your natural with your first queen, it spawns another tumor. Like by the time your second queen spawns, that creep highway is already going to be like connecting your third and your natural pretty much, because then the third will finish and that creep will finish connecting it. And then your other queen would be your third queen now could drop a tumor, and then at first, and then it could go to the third to become an injector. You could start another queen behind it, so like one queen at a time, because one queen at a time can totally be affordable, while spinning your larva. And then that every single time that one queen at a time keeps spawning out of that natural hatchery, you just keep making that first thing it does, drop a creep tumor, drop a creep tumor, drop a creep tumor. And you could have like 4 or 5 active tumors by like we're talking like 430.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, and because you think about it like this too, like, if you like, and this is why scouting like the early tech is really important. If you would have seen this guy's going for like a Twilight Council, okay, this is like minor subtle differences. He's going Twilight Council first. I would say, all right, maybe around like 3:30. This is around the time when your second queen could be done. By the way, you could have at your natural is what I mean. You can, instead of being like, okay, let's start queen number 4, you could be like, all right, let's start a Roach Warren, because he's going to be doing something really aggressive on the ground, and I need to make sure I'm not going to die to this. It could be charge lots, it could be adepts, it could be rushing into DTs, whatever. But if your opponent went for like a Stargate, maybe instead of making that Roach Warren super fast, you make the queen instead, right? Because it's the exact same cost. And then you make the Roach Warren a little bit later, like when you can afford it, then after. Because the hardest part about making queens, 100%, like mixing them in with your larva usage, is only up until your natural is fully saturated. But by the time your natural is fully saturated, your money starts kind of exploding a bit, and you can easily afford queens at that point while also spinning your larva.
Yeah. Sure.
So it just really becomes like the order. Like, do I want a quicker Roach Warren or do I want a quicker queen? And Roach Warren is acceptable against anything but a Stargate. Queen is acceptable against Stargate, basically. And then you can go make the other again after.
I've been trying. You demonstrated in one of your videos the Ling Corruptor style against
Skytoss?
against Protoss when they go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite work for me yet.
Okay.
But
Sure.
I'm guessing I'm not doing it off good enough macro.
That's what I was gonna say. If you're having a problem with it, I guarantee it's because you're probably just hitting those drone timings a little bit later. Because if you hit the drone timings just right, you will always have the money before the Protoss hits you with the critical mass, and you'll be able to crank out the corruptors before he gets there. Because when the critical mass happens, that's when you can make corruptor. But before the critical mass, your queens should be able to hold like, we're talking like 20 supply or less of Skytoss, like 6 voids or 5 voids or 4 voids. Like if you have queens and some shit like that, you'd be fine. All right, so we can see he looks like he really wants to take that third base now. So the perfect thing to be doing right now, this would be, if I were you, this is what I would say should be happening right now. You should be making drones. We know he's going voids. You should be spreading your creep, making queens, all that good stuff, getting your mineral line saturated. But your lings should be over at his base right now, between his third and his natural, away, not getting hit by the void ray, but running around, because guaranteed what is how I'm looking at your vision, by the way. I'm not actually looking at his, but I'll look at him just for a second. Okay, there's not one yet, but I was gonna say guaranteed what's gonna happen is this dude is about to send his probe to his third. Like, it's very, very, very likely gonna happen. So if you can just literally kill that probe, every time you kill that probe, it just add like plus 10 seconds to his delayed third, basically. Or like plus 15 seconds, because he has to rip a new one off the mineral line, run all the way back over there, start it again, or try to start it again. So, and your lings right now are worthless otherwise. There's nothing else they're doing. Okay, it actually looks like he's... And also, here's the thing too. If he doesn't take a third, you would probably catch a move out like this. So you'd see it coming way earlier. And now that there's a bunch of adepts, like there's, like we talked about earlier, we were calling like 6 or 7 adepts. There's 7 adepts attacking you right now. But again, they do not have resonating glaives. If you see this moving out, you can honestly just be like, okay, how many adepts is that? Let's try again. It's like a ballpark guess. You could be like, I'll just kind of quickly guess that. Oh, it looks like, let's say you read it wrong and you're like, that's 9. And you make 9 roaches. That's still close enough. It's fine. If you make 9 roaches right now, they finish as he gets to your base, and you're fine. If you don't make any roaches at all, this is gonna become a serious problem for you.
It's in production right now. I'm making an overload, but
Yeah.
I'm making it too late. I'm supply blocked.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too, if a situation ever arose where you go, oh shit, ViBE told me to make the queen, and let's just say you made the roach warren even later. Let's say you make the roach warren, and right now, for whatever reason, your roach warren was only halfway done, and you're like, okay, fuck, I'm not gonna have roaches for this. This is still doable with zerglings. Like, just making a round of zerglings instead is still doable against adepts, because when adepts do not have resonating glaives, they are nowhere near as intimidating. Like, I do still think roaches are better, but if you had to, lings would totally work here too. The big one though is you just want to make sure, like, if you were scouting him and you saw the move out, you would not actually. If you make a round of drones right now, I could see this being a serious problem for you. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. And right now we haven't really made a choice yet because you are supply blocked for a sec. But yeah, because the Void Ray just killed an overlord of yours, which sucks for you. And now you see it. So now obviously you're gonna make some units. So, well, we'll talk about this like this for a second. So we saw 2 Void Rays right there in the attack, and you are starting to make roaches, which I like a lot. The perfect way to micro this situation now would be, I would say, inject your bases one more time with all your queens at every single base, and then rip your queens off your hatcheries. Just take them off. And if you have enough money to spare after you make enough units that you think you need to defend this, immediately make another queen to defend. If you, however, do not have enough money to make another queen because you're like just trying to squeeze out every roach you can with the money that you have or whatever units you're making, then it's okay if you don't put your queen back on for just a moment. But ripping your queens off just for now to fight this is totally fine, and the reason why is because he has multiple voids. You saw more than one. If it was just one void ray, I'd be like, you could have like 2 or 3 queens and you could easily kill that with like so that could be like your creep spreaders plus one of your queens at a hatchery. But multiple voids, and also the fact that these adepts are here and you have no units right now, I think you would, to fix this problem right now for you, you need to rip your queens off and fight all together here. Otherwise, your queens are just going to get picked off one by one by one.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also the other thing too is, I would say just making sure right before the fight happens, if you do, again, the big one is, if you're gonna rip your queens off, always needing to inject, because right now your main and your natural are being neglected, and I know you're dealing with the attack, you're trying to lose as little as possible here. But if you neglect that inject, that is actually, it's the same thing as like, like another like 6 units basically just are dead that could have been made, because now they're not gonna get made anymore. And realistically, realistically, okay? This problem, I feel like, also could have been avoided a lot if instead of scouting him when he was like, maybe like a screen length away from your creep, where you saw him like in the middle of the map with that one ling that was scouting by, if you would have saw him at his base as he walked out of his 2 gateways, because you would have had the idea to deny the probe with your lings that were kind of chilling there anyways. Like, your lings are already dead, pretty much, so they didn't accomplish much anyways in this defense. So they're kind of worthless here, unless you have a lot more of them. But my point is if you would have saw it coming way earlier, you would have been more ready for this for like a long time ago, and you would have had more time to react. And like, that's exactly what we're talking about, like when we started the coaching lesson earlier, which is if you react to Protoss as it's happening, it does so much more than if you react to Protoss before it happens. So step 1 would have been skiing the Stargate. So it would have given you the idea, okay, queens are going to be important here. I need to make sure my creep spread is between all my bases, which luckily for you already it is, which is good. Because if your creep was actually not connected to your bases, you would have a way fucking harder time dealing with this. So that's good. But it gives you the idea too, though, that you're like, oh shit, okay, it's going to be Void Adept. so you know what you're up against before it happens too, which gives you, it just gives you that like security where you feel more comfortable in taking your defense properly and making the right amount of stuff instead of panicking. Because I will say this though, you just did crank out 11 drones, and like a lot of times I feel like that would be fucking really scary, but I feel like throughout this process, I do think you're going to be able to kill the adepts with what I think you are maybe a little bit on the low end of units to defend here, but you still will overall kill this, and recovering your drone count is very important. So I'm kind of okay with it, but yeah, like it's just, I don't know, it is falling apart a little bit. And this is why. Okay, this is why you want to have enough units to always have units on the adepts, to where if he takes that fight, he's gonna take a lot of damage on his adepts. Like, adepts will die over time, but you can always also chase the shade. You always have to have enough also to chase the shade, because if you don't, it's just gonna get excessive with how many drones die, which is what's happening to you now. So yeah, like basically we're talking like you said before, if you're anywhere in the range of like 8 roaches, 9 roaches, that's fine. I would say against this, like I was saying, I would say like 6 or 7 would be fucking perfect, because Protosses who open with a Stargate and just keep making adepts, it's almost always like that number of adepts, like 6 or 7 adepts, and 1-to-1 roaches beat adepts. And if you just have like, let's say it's 7 adepts, okay, and you made 7 roaches. 7 adepts show up, they phase into your base. You leave 3 roaches to fight 7 adepts out in front of your creep, like on the edge of your creep, so he's not killing any drones right now. 4 roaches chase the shades. Even if he doesn't shade and cancels it and fights your roaches instead, that buys you time to react to it even more, to go, okay, well, he's, you know, it's more time now that I have to deal with this. You could, let's say you could even send your creep spreading queens to go help the roaches that are fighting in front, but you would still kill like 1 adept when 1 roach would die if it's like 7 adepts versus like 3 roaches. Like, adepts suck balls against roaches, like pretty hard.
I usually have that problem when I just, in the confusion, I lose track of the camera and I'm not sure where they're going.
Yeah.
I wonder, I think I'm thinking about it, I can actually like give them a move command on the shade, and I guess that works unless they break line of sight, which they shouldn't.
It's move commanding the shade. It's I mean, I could see that working sometimes, but I could also see that having problems too, where if the guy actually, if let's say he sends shades into your base, but then he splits his shades, let's say 7 go into your base and 3 go to your main and 4 go to your natural or something, or you know, he splits it between your third and your natural, and then suddenly all your roaches chase one of the shades to one of your bases and the other base is completely exposed. Yeah, like that is something you'll have to be scared, like you have to be wary of and kind of prepare for. One of the best ways to kind of deal with something like that is, instead of clicking on the shade, you just honestly don't look at the fight of, like, if you have like roaches engaging adepts out in front of your base, just look at it for a second while you initiate it, but then kind of forget about it. Be like, ah, fuck it, it's fine. But watch where the shades, only watch where the shades go. And then it's a judgment call where you go, do I have enough to defend this, or should I make a few more units? And ideally, I would say it is better to you know, really make sure you have enough to defend it than it is to under defend it and lose your fucking drones. So if you just know, okay, he's got 7 adepts, a good amount of defense is 1-to-1 ratio roach to adept. That does work very well. However, if you don't know, and let's say you're questioning it and you're like, okay, I'm not really sure how much this is going to be, overmaking a little bit is better than undermaking. So it's like, you know, the better alternative is what I'm trying to say. Again, it's always because you just have to chase the shade, and that is the one problem I see happening for you so far against adepts multiple times now, which is the shades aren't getting chased enough, and every time they arrive, they just fuck your mineral lines up pretty bad, which it puts you so far behind, basically.
Yeah, there were like 34 drones that died so far.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a bit much much.
Yeah, and now like the shade again, it arrives. Your queens are there at least, but you have to always chase the shade. The adept is fucking annoying. I 100% can relate to that, but you always have to chase the shade. Then I like this. You're gonna deny the third a little bit. This is gonna get you back in the game a little bit. I like a lot that you're also making drones, and I will also say I like that you're not overcommitting your army. You did some damage. You killed a probe. You delayed his expansion a little bit, but you're not trying to throw away your whole army. You're trying to like recover here a little bit. But now, this, like if this guy goes full-fledged Sky Toss, which it looks like he is, it'll be really hard to deal with now, only because your economy is so stunted at this point.
Yeah, he just goes mass Void Ray with Flux Veins, and at that point he's just playing ping pong with me.
Yeah. Against this, okay. I'm gonna explain a style of voids from a realistic perspective here. If you know you're ahead against, not necessarily ahead, if you just know that your economy is where it's supposed to be, rather. So if you read the game really well, and let's say you scouted the early Void Ray Adept pressure and you fucking crushed it, and you're like, I can drone my ass off now, then you would be, I would consider that you being ahead. If you took a little bit of damage, but you dealt with it in a realistic time frame, and let's say you feel like the game kind of balanced out and you're even, this still can work. The whole like Corruptor Ling thing is what I'm talking about. That can still work because it is what I like to deem, or it's like the term that I would use to describe it, is it's called a brute force army. It's pure auto attacking units. It's like not a lot of cost efficiency in terms of like the unit trades well against in certain situations, like super cost efficient, but it's a unit that becomes cost efficient when you have a brute force, like you have enough to just like club him over the head with it, basically. Like, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
a links around kills basically everything. If it's really so.
Exactly, yeah. But that situation's not really happening for you this game because you took so much damage. So now you need to do something that is less brute force, which means less aggressive, and it needs to be something that's more turtley now, and something that is more cost efficient at defensively absorbing stuff. And because he's going mass voids, I would say the proper response for you would be actually to go infestors. Like queens, I think queens are fine because queens are allowing you to also make drones, and you really fucking need drones right now. But then also teching into like infestors, I would say would be a nice idea. Exactly. You just let him engage into you, and you'd have to fungal him, and because again, you have no choice. You are so far behind right now in terms of your state of the game that you're in, that if you go infestors and it fails, well, if you would have gone anything else, you also would have probably died. Like infestors are your best bet to hopefully take a nice engagement that's going to recover the game for you. Because if this dude engages on your creep really deep, and then you fungal him, and you chain that fungal so he can't really leave, and your queens suddenly pop like, you have like, let's say you have like 6 infestors and like 10 queens, and you pop like 12 void rays. Like that's the kind of move that can get you back in the game, and that's very realistic for you to fight against mass voids like that, because you can actually control the voids very well this way. If you were to go for like Hydra or Corruptor, all that's going to happen is he's going to have so many voids that he's going to actually, like, you might still kill some of his voids, but he's going to take trades against you that are just going to keep crippling you repeatedly until he kills you.
Yes.
So yeah, like, but again, brute force though is fucking amazing though if you have a good economy, because suddenly when he comes over with voids, you just like every time he leaves his base, you punish him instead by just killing all of them. Yeah, like you're getting even further behind now. There's not much you could do about that right there. Like if you don't have an infestor, you can't punish this, and your layer was a bit late because of the damage you took. So I would say if you were going infestors, what just happened just now would still happen because you wouldn't have the infestors yet, but you would probably have them in production like right now though, if you were like trying to go into them. Because again, I will say 9 minutes is super fucking late in this game already. But all I'm trying to say is, if we were judging the game off of the 38 drones that had already died, then it will obviously make the game a later pace for you.
Yeah.
And then also I wouldn't. I'm not also trying to say that you need to go infestors like all game. It would just seriously be like the 6 infestors or something like that, just to get you through this stage of harassment, and then you could go into, you know, like corruptor and whatever else you want to go into again. And what the goal is you're hoping that you're just going to take this massively good trade with AoE, and then the game stabilizes for you, because while you were, and so like basically instead of investing like 8,000 resources or like 6,000 resources into army because you're going into like mass corruptor, and now if we talk about how much each corruptor is worth, it's 250. So we're talking 4 corruptors is 1,000, which means fucking
A lot.
yeah, that's 20 corruptors is 5,000 resources, and 20 corruptors is something that would be more realistic to deal with this. If we compare 20 corruptors to like 6 infestors, 6 infestors are only 1,500 resources. So it's like it's almost like a fourth of the cost, and it can deal with the army just as effectively. But it's only because you can only do it defensively. So like again, the power of the like going for instance into like corruptor is it gives you the option of being aggressive, but it is way more expensive. So your economy needs to be strong for that. But the power of the infestor is it's only defensive, but it's so much more cost efficient. So you're basically allowing the Protoss to do whatever he wants like this, but it's okay because you're behind and you're playing the recovery game, so you have no choice. So what you're hoping for is the Protoss to make a mistake, and then if he does make a mistake, suddenly you're back in the game again.
Cool. Yeah, at this point, I think I'm pretty much dead. I don't
You're definitely dead. You're definitely dead because you're going corruptor, and you're never gonna fucking have enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, like this is at this point I'm playing this for practice, but just.
No, yeah, I totally think. Yeah, staying in the game is totally fine here. I think staying in the game is great, but so you can exactly do what you said. You can practice and try to get more used to dealing with this kind of situation. But yeah, it's just not practical for it to ever work, just because you're at such a deficit already, and you're like this is what I picture happening. Okay, if I was like watching this game, and let's just say I was watching you in like a tournament or something, I'd be like, all right, what's gonna happen in the next like 3 minutes? Okay, like 3 or 4 minutes is there's gonna be probably like a shitload of void rays. We're talking like 24 void rays, and they're gonna fight probably an equal number of corruptor. There's probably gonna be like 20 to 24 corruptors. He's gonna turn on his prismatic alignment, and then all the corruptors are gonna die by the time like 3 void rays die, because a void ray is worth twice the amount of supply that a corruptor is, and that army is just it's going to destroy. It's gonna fucking delete the corruptor army in seconds, because there's just not gonna be enough. That's what
Not inaccurate.
that's what I would say is gonna happen.
The one thing is that I actually go for Vipers.
Okay.
I was hoping like maybe I could catch him if lucky in AoE.
It's
I do throw the AoEs, but they don't seem to do much.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. AoE is definitely, I would say this. If this is the perfect way to describe Voiders, okay? Early in that like corruptor style and stuff like that. Early game corruptor is a great idea. If you have a good economy, because you don't let the Protoss get to what he is right now, which is maxed out basically. You keep breaking the Protoss every time he tries the max. You break him again, because every single time, and the reason why this keeps happening is because every single time you take a fight, you are not only resetting his money in his bank over and over, so he never has one, but you're also simultaneously harassing him with Zerglings, and you're breaking his future income. So you're basically keeping him starving out over and over and over, while you're just being super greedy and taking the map yourself. That's why that works so well. But if your opponent ever does stabilize and gets to a maxed out composition of, like, let's say, pure Void Ray, going Corruptor at this stage is really fucking scary. It still is doable, but it's super scary. I would say what would be great now is if you actually had spellcasters. So going into Viper is amazing, because what you could do now, if you go Viper and he goes into, if you're going Corruptor Viper and he's going into Void Ray, if he turns on like prismatic alignment, suddenly you just run away, throw like 2 parasitic bombs into his army, like on both sides, so it gets maximum spread of AoE, and then his Void Rays are eating fucking damage while they can't attack you, and it's a lot of damage, and it's amazing. It's great, and it gives, and then it either makes him turn off prismatic alignment, or he doesn't turn it off and he spreads his void rays out slowly and he just eats shitloads of damage, and it's a wonderful situation. An even better one would be if you actually were able to use infestors with vipers, and you not only parasitic bomb him, but you also fungal him, which is even more slow on the void rays than him turning on prismatic alignment. It makes them super fucking slow, and it also does even more damage at the same time.
I don't think two different spell.
I don't think so either.
Spellcasters. Yeah, it's not in my skill level.
Exactly. It's something that's more advanced. But I think, like, so you making either the infestor or the viper is one. Just making one is fine. But the way you would pace, like, so if you're gonna go viper, this is the proper way to pace it. You do not burn all of your bombs all at once. Let's say you have like 6 vipers, okay, or something like that. The proper way to do it would be, if he has a fuckload of voids and he like turns on prismatic alignment, throw like 2 bombs in his army on both sides
and run.
Exactly. And like don't run it completely away. Just keep distance away from his auto attack, but kind of still stay in range to see his army. Play it like a Terran would use, like a cyclone, for instance, because he's moving super fucking slow, so you can easily maintain the difference there of distance. But you want to see if he runs away, because if he does run away, then you can actually attack him. And if he turns on prismatic alignment, you can like poke him here and there. But then what you want to do after you throw a couple bombs at him, and let's say he spreads out his army and he gets out of the bombs, but it does do some damage to him, let him re-engage you after he spreads and then recommits to engage, and because you're still nearby. And the second he re-engages, throw one more bomb to his army, and then he'll split again. And then as he splits again, you should be chasing him to punish the split, because if he doesn't split and he eats the bomb, that's also a fuckload of damage. And then let's say he splits again, you punish him by killing a couple voids with your corruptor. He regroups, groups up again, and fights your corruptors. You bomb him again. Every time you engage, you bomb him one more time. Bomb him one more time. Throw a bomb again one more time. So, and again, he has to always either eat that fucking AoE, or he has to split, which allows your corruptors to just get free reign over killing a few splitting voids. That is ideally how you want to micro that.
Cool.
So you pace yourself, basically. And if you...
I did not pace myself.
Yeah, if you throw all your bombs at once and he splits once, suddenly you don't get that aspect of making him split again.
I am happy I got up to 78 workers.
I am too, because there's a lot that you've lost 63 already. So you're definitely trying to macro it up.
Protoss.
Yeah. And then he'll probably, he probably just leaves just to like expand again, regroup his voids and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then again, it's just the story of the game really is just that you're so far behind in supply that it's
yeah.
So we already know you're dead, but
yeah, you can see the Viper engagement in like a minute here.
Yeah. And now he's killing your creep. This is the ultimate. This sucks pretty bad for Zerg situation. And here it comes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have 5 Vipers. 5 Vipers is great. That's a totally fine number. That means you have 5 bombs. I think right now, again, we'll talk exactly about right as this engagement starts. Right now. Okay, so the perfect way to take this fight, okay, would be... Do you have all your... Hold on, really quick question. Do you have your entire Corruptor Viper group in one control group right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have to stop doing that. That's step number 1, okay? It's going to be annoying for you. It's going to take some time to get used to, but you have to not do that. Because the only way you can micro that properly is if you actually expend all of your Viper energy at once. Otherwise, your Vipers fly in and commit suicide. So, put like Vipers on like 3, for instance, in this situation, and then leave Corruptors on 2. So Vipers, the way you'd micro this properly is your Vipers would be like, you tell them to sit where they are like right now. It's like Vipers, stay close by, but just kind of chill. Do not actually fly into the voids, but be close. and then corruptors could be on too, and you could like group up the corruptors in a really tight ball. And the reason why you want it to be a tight ball is because if you picture in your mind one corruptor, and then you have one corruptor, like if you were to tell a corruptor to attack a target at max range, imagine if you have all corruptors on that one corruptor and they all attack at the exact same target, and none of those corruptors overcommit their range to do that. Like, basically, you don't want to have a ball of corruptors to where some are flying within 3 range to attack, some are flying within 4 range to attack, some are flying within 5 range to attack. You want all your corruptors to like be clumped up at the exact same spot so they attack, so you take minimum return damage. The way you'd micro that is you would say Vipers, 3, sit nearby, 2, spam click it into like a tight spot really fast, and then you would just say like 1 Viper, bomb a Void Ray in the middle, and that's it. Like you could even be like bomb a Void Ray in the middle, and then shift right click back to like the safe spot that the Vipers are at with all your Vipers. So only one Viper would be told to bomb it, and then it would shift click back. Meanwhile, while that Viper is doing that, you're spam clicking your corruptor, and you just focus fire a Void Ray on the side, and you back up. This is the way you have to micro it like this if you're fighting mass voids. If you don't, and you just concave it, you're gonna die. So now what's gonna happen is, if you micro it this way, his voids are gonna start eating AoE damage on a lot of voids, and you're gonna instantly pick off a Void Ray. And now, when this happens, you have to then you have to read the fight and go, all right, if this Protoss player splits his voids and starts like going, oh fuck, a bomb, try to get a bomb out of my army, and his voids start going all over the place, that is the perfect opportunity to once again repeatedly pick a Void Ray off, pick a Void Ray off, pick a Void Ray off, because now instead of fighting against 26 voids at once, now maybe you're only fighting against 8 of them, or like 7 of them, or something like that, because a lot of his voids are running away from bombs, or a bomb basically. And then you don't have to stay there for a long time either. You can immediately, as soon as he regroups and he recommits to a fight, just back up again. And as soon as he recommits, throw a new bomb into his new clump, and it happens again. And you keep repeating this process until you're out of bombs, basically. And I think the amount of Vipers you made is great. 5 bombs is fucking wonderful, because 5 bombs does a total of 600 damage. And if you look at a Voider, it only has 250 hit points. So 600 damage is going to do some serious damage over time if you just maximize it. One at a time, one at a time, one at a time.
It doesn't stack anymore, right?
It does not stack.
Yeah, I think that was what was missing. I forgot that they changed that one.
Yeah. That's why, like, when I was saying earlier, when I was saying it would be okay to throw, like, 2 bombs into his prismatic alignment cooldown, if he did it on, like, both sides of his army, it's only because that's, like, an opportunity right there where you're definitely going to get some more damage done, because his Void Rays are snared because of the debuff they get when they turn it on. Other than that, though, just throw 1 bomb at a time into, like, the center of the clump, because it forces splits. Otherwise, he eats fuckloads of damage.
Cool.
So yeah, you bombed all of them at once, and now you no longer get to force splits, and you also are just taking the fight. He's not splitting either, which is great for you, but at the same time, you're fighting against 24 voids with your corruptors, and what's going to happen is this is now limited instead of 600 damage over time, because it's going 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. It's all at once, so now it's just 120 damage in a lot of different locations. But so like all of them are going to take 120 damage, but it's not going to like it. Yeah, like we said, it doesn't stack, so it's not going to go anything above that. And then really what's happening though is you're basically doing like 40% of the Void Rays health. Like all the Void Rays are going to take 40% of their health is going to get deleted now over the course of 7 seconds. But in 7 seconds, you're going to fight with.
It's going to be dead.
Yeah, and in 7 seconds, you're going to have 22 Corruptors fight 26 Void Rays, which is exactly like 22 Corruptors, or 24 Corruptors are going to die in that same amount of time. And you're only going to kill probably like 5 Voids. Because just imagine if when you engage right here, just imagine if you cast 1 bomb and you've stacked your Corruptors up the way we talked about, and you focus fired 1 Void Ray. And then instead of taking the fight the whole time, he chases you. And as he's chasing you, he's not hitting you because he, the Void Rays are basically, look at the move speed of a Void Ray. It's 4.65, and look at the move speed of a Corruptor. It's 4.72. So a Corruptor will slowly start outranging Void Rays, and if you just clump up and then immediately you're bombing and you're immediately running away, and he chases you, you're just getting free damage while he's like, I'm trying to close the distance, but he's actually flying faster than me. And then when your bomb's over, if he's still chasing you, you throw another bomb. Or if he turns around and runs away, you turn around and chase him. And you just keep close to him, but you just keep going. I'm relying only on my AoE damage right now. I am not trying to take a fight with you with my actual army.
And two, like, let's say Vipers are on 3, they're on hold position. A lot of them I have is casters, and I tell them to cast, and they just like jump into like tanks and whatever there's out there.
So, the way a caster is going to work, they don't need to be in hold position, by the way. The way a caster will work is, let's say you have five Vipers right here, and you just have 3 selected. Let's say Vipers are 3, and you go Viper, Parasitic Bomb, the Void Ray. Whatever Void Ray you select to Parasitic Bomb, it will select your closest Viper to that target that has enough energy to do that spell. And so that's smart casting. It'll tell it the closest thing to it to go cast there. And then it will literally, the second it casts it, it'll then sit there idle and do nothing. Because now it has no command. Which is why you need to, after you cast the spell, you need to reissue a move command on your Viper to move them back to a location that suits you, where you want them to be. Otherwise, that one Viper will just chill there in the death area. They're like the not safe location anymore.
Yeah.
Which is why I was saying if you really wanted to, you could shift command it. You could just be like, Viper, bomb it, and then shift move back to where my Vipers are. And it'll make all your Vipers, all the other 4, just do the shift move, and they'll stay there anyways. But it'll make the one Viper go cast a bomb and then shift move back to it. But like, you also don't necessarily need to just kill all the Void Rays too. Like, I don't want to make it sound like you have to like play a flawless scenario here where your Corruptors don't ever engage and you somehow kill him with bombs only, and we're talking about kiting him for like the next 25 seconds or something. Doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but at the very least, you could have actually made the fight actually start concave versus concave like 10 seconds later. Like there could have been some time that has gone by to where you actually maximized a lot more of your Parasitic Bomb usage, because you actually engaged the Voids when they were at 100%, and as your Parasitic Bomb damage started ticking over, you started auto-attacking with a concave as well. So you didn't really gain any benefit from the AoE to maximize the concave. Like, best case scenario there is your entire army dies and his army dies right after. That's best case, which is still a terrible situation for Zerg. And especially in your situation when you're down here, like because if you think about it like this too, think about it like this with that logic, okay? If you're trying to engage the army to where your entire army dies and his army hopefully will die right after, you still lose the game, because if you look at the economy tab, he is still going to be mining more than you, because he has more active bases than you, he has more workers than you, and he also hasn't lost his tech, and you did. So now you also have the expenses of having to rebuild your tech. So trading armies here is also a losing situation for you, right? So yeah, like maximizing the AoE is definitely like right now would be like that first auto attack you did with the Corruptors right there. That's fine. But right now, what should be happening immediately is like the one bomb goes off in his army, your whole army runs away now. It all runs away. And if he chases you in a clump like this, every second is just what is 120 divided by 7? It's like, I don't know, probably like 18 or some shit, or like 14, 16. You're just like doing that much damage every second as he's trying to chase you down. And it fucking adds up so fast. And
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that basically this game comes down to inject like not do the spawn like creep with the natural and chase the shades.
Yeah, no, yeah, yes, 100%. This game fell apart for you because of the adepts, for real. Like the shades not getting chased was The creep tumor at your natural is not game ending, I would say. It definitely would have helped you. It would have made it easier. But you didn't take game ending damage from the creep part because you only lost 3 drones. Or no, sorry, you lost 6 actually. You did actually get kind of fucked there. Now that I think about it, that was painful. But yeah, like, so the creep tumor will help you. It's doable though to not have a creep tumor. You could still deal with it as long as you chase the shade, because it's very little. It's a very little amount of time before your speed's done in that situation. And if he stays for too long, his adepts will always die. But yeah, like the middle one, the second round where he had the voids in the adepts, that definitely fucked you over.
Yeah, that was it was all fun from there.
Yeah. But yeah, so the big thing I would say as well is that we touched on a little bit earlier is always don't be afraid to lose your overlord, the first overlord. Like once you get a read on, okay, he's got gate, core, nexus, whatever, you get a read on his natural. Do not be afraid to dive it into his main and find where his pylon is and scout the tech of the pylon.
But don't the portals get stalkers just for that, to stop that?
Something like I would say the ratio of me losing my overlord and not actually realizing what happens is probably 1 out of 10 games I play. I go, fuck, I don't know what he's doing, and my overlord died. But 9 out of 10 games, even if my overlord dies, I know what he's doing. You get a read on it, and here's why. Or what's up?
So basically, if he makes any other unit, the first unit isn't the stalker, they can go in.
Even if it is a stalker first, you could still go in, because you will still see. Because you got to think about it like this: for him to make a stalker, he has access to building tech as well. All tech for Protoss comes off of a cyber core, and so does a stalker. And any Protoss player who is, I mean, and I'll just say this too. This is where I think I might convince you here, because right now you might be on the fence, being like, "Oh, Vibe, this sounds like terrible information," but think about it like this, okay? If your Protoss opponent goes, "Oh fuck, we're getting scouted by an overlord," I'm gonna delay my tech now because I don't want him to see it, and he decides to wait the amount of build time of a stalker, which is, I think the build time of a stalker before warp gate is like 28 seconds or some shit, or like 26 seconds. And then he waits for the stalker to also run to the overlord, and then waits for the stalker to kill the overlord, which overall, we're talking like 45 seconds here of time for his tech to be delayed. And then he throws his tech down because he's like, oh, okay, now he can't see it. I'm going to make my tech now. That is a 45-second later of any type of timing he could do to you, which makes you have way more of the trade-off is you lose 100 minerals for that overlord, but you're able to make way more fucking drones to deal with, to have before the timing hits you, because he delayed it so fucking long because he didn't want you to see it. Like, that overlord is well worth it in every way. And then if you do scout the timing, or you do scout the initial tech, well, now you just know what his opener is, and now you get a way better read on having an idea what you're up against.
So I should, let's say I scout the natural, I see the nexus timing.
Yeah.
I see what his first unit is from the gateway, and if he's chrono boosting it, then I go into the main looking for the second crystal.
You should. I would say that yes, but you should always go into the main. I would say like what you want to look for is pylons, and you should always know that there are going to, by the time your overlord gets to his base, there is a 100% requirement that there are 2 pylons already, because otherwise he's supply blocked. So what you're looking for is that second pylon. And while you're looking for the second pylon, you should also pay attention to his energy on his nexus, like you were saying, because let's just say when your overlord gets to his base and you see a cyber core that's like 90% of the way done, as you fly over it, it finishes, and you see he does not chrono boost his. Let's say he doesn't chrono boost his gateway. Well, then it might make you think, okay, maybe this guy is being greedy and he's just chrono boosting probes constantly. And let's say you get to the Nexus, and that is exactly what's happening. The Nexus is currently being chronoed and has no energy as well, which means he's chronoed it multiple times. So you're like, that already tells you this guy's definitely not going for, like, he might still harass me, but he's not going for some type of like massive all-in or some super timing. So now I know I'm okay to be like, okay, we can make like 6 roaches or some shit, or 8 roaches, and I'm fine. And, you know, when I eventually make them, and we're good. Or maybe you don't even need roaches. Like, maybe you scout something even further that tells you, okay, right now I don't need roaches for whatever reason. Most of the time, yeah, I'll say you will, but My point is you can tell, like, okay, this guy's doing a macro-based build. He's not looking to be aggressive. We're good. But let's just say, hypothetically, let's say he doesn't Chrono Boost the Gateway again, and you're thinking he's chronoing probes, but now let's say, as you get into his main base, he's got a Stargate that's like fucking 40% of the way done, and you see a Nexus with like 140 energy on it. And now you're like, okay, well, I might want to expect some fucking, maybe some air aggression now. Maybe it's going to be like multiple oracles or whatever. It gives you more of a read on what's happening, because now you're like, okay, well, why is he not spinning Chronos? Like, what? And there is a Stargate. Maybe he's going to Chrono a Stargate. Or the same thing could be said about a Twilight Council. He has energy on a Nexus with a Twilight Council, and you go, okay, he's probably going to multiple Chrono Boost that Twilight Council, and now he's going to go for a charge lot timing or an adept timing, or some type of a timing is probably going to happen. Things like this are reads you can get. You can get so many fucking reads on Protoss builds if you just scout with your Overlord at first. Sorry, I know I probably keep interrupting you. You're like trying to get a word in here, and I just keep talking. But last thing I'll say is I'm dead serious when I say there are so many fucking variations of Protoss builds that you can read, and it doesn't have to be exactly what he's doing, but you can read aggression or macro. And that is also a good read for you to let you know if you can be greedier or not.
Yeah, actually I'll do that because scouting Protoss has been something I'm not very good at, knowing like when it's Stalker Immortal, when it's Zealot Immortal, when it's whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever page in the big book of Protoss bullshit they choose to open. But okay, I'll start diving the main, see if I can use that better.
Yeah, because it's just one Overlord too, and like it does suck when it dies, but it guaranteed you're gonna get information before it dies. Like you will always make it to the Nexus before it's dead. You will always you'll always see like the second pylon too, unless he proxies it somewhere. It's like crazy. Like, cause some Protosses might do something where they go, you know, like their first probe runs down to the natural, builds the first pylon, and then he builds a gate right after, and you know makes his Nexus. But then he makes his, like the probe that scouts you, maybe it makes a second pylon proxied on the map somewhere to like make a proxy Stargate. That can happen too. But here's the thing: if your Overlord scouts into his base, and you go, okay, well, you don't actually have a second pylon. You should, but you don't. Otherwise, you'd be supply blocked right now. That is a perfect time for you to go, how about I just send 2 Zerglings on shift attack commands that go along the entire border of the map, one on like the right side, one on the left side, and there's a very high chance you're going to find a proxy.
Yeah, and I guess not a lot of Protoss like hide their second pylon on this like side of their base or some silly shit.
Yeah, it wastes mining time. No one really does that. Like if they're going to build a second pylon as a proxy, they'll proxy it. But if they're going to build a second pylon to not supply block, they'll usually just build it right next to the Nexus.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Nice. Yeah, man. But your idea here, though, the Corruptor Viper, like I said, it would have worked if your economy wasn't so fucked. So I love that you made Vipers, though. Like, you need to do that versus someone who maxes on Voids. All right, man. I'm trying to think about anything else we could talk about right now that was relevant in this game, but that's the big one. The biggest one was definitely the dealing with adepts. Like, there's so many other things in this game that could have been fixed if that was, you know, the ideal part. Do you have any other questions right now? Really fast.
Not about this game, no.
Okay, let's pop into another one really fast, and
okay.
I was gonna say because I want to give you a little bit more.
Another ZvP?
Sure, yeah. I would recommend that for you, honestly. I think it's probably best to focus on the one matchup.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's fucking do this. And I don't have to tell you the whole get past the lead thing. You already know your shit. Feels good.
Saves time.
Yeah. All right, we'll speed this one up a little bit. Get into it.
Sure.
But Yeah, your opener though, going for like 16 hatch into like 18 gas 70 pool. It's a good build. I like it for, you know, pretty much. It works in like every matchup.
Yeah. I think I do it in everything.
Yeah, it works in every matchup. Okay, this guy is double gating before Nexus again. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see your Overlord. And
This build hurt me today.
yeah. Oh, like right now. So we don't like this. Okay, so I do tell you, scout into the main, right? Like scout the main, figure out what he's doing. I'm glad we're actually going back and looking at this one more time, because this is like one example where I would say it's actually okay to not scout into the main, and here's why. We see his chrono energy, like this is his chrono energy right now. He is double chronoing the gates, so we already know we can already not even have to see the Nexus. We should know there is not fucking any energy on that bad boy because he just burnt it on the gateways. And also, there's no natural, and he's making stuff out of the gateways, which means he is spending his money. Also, we see 2 pylons at the natural. Like, we don't even need to bother right now. So, going into his main is not necessary for the moment. This is like the only exception. But but I would say that it would become relevant, though, soon. So, like, we saw 2 adepts come out of his base, and you can... I would say keeping your Overlord here just for like maybe a second longer, like basically seeing the second round. So if you think about it like this, if you know what the build time of an adept is, the build time of an adept is 30 seconds. If you go, okay, I just saw 2 adepts pop out of his gateways, and just make like a mental note to yourself on like the clock, try to like maybe look at his wall again. It doesn't have to be exactly 30 seconds later, but let's say you do it 45 seconds later. That's also fine. Mm-hmm. You just want to see, is there anything in his doorway? Like, is there anything sitting in his door right now? In terms of, like, is there a sentry there? Is there a stalker sitting there? Is there a new adept sitting there? Because if there's nothing sitting in his doorway, then I would...
It's coming to my doorway.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Definitely, it means that it's attacking you. But also, then I would say it's also probably a good time to go scout, too, then. Because if he's going to just make nothing but adepts to attack, that like adepts do not spend all of his gas. He could easily tech out of it as well. If he was making like sentries and stalkers, I would say it's okay to maybe sit there a little longer now, because you know his gas is being spent harder and his tech is more delayed, and you already get a good read on what he's doing. He's gone for like double chronoed gates into now more gateway units, but we'll just say this: double gateway openers, sit at the gateways for like 30 seconds to a minute, and then scout to his main every single time. Just do it every single time, and cool. It'll basically give you a good read on like what's happening then, because his tech is going to get delayed because he's going so heavy into the aggression right now. Is the only reason why it doesn't matter that you scout right this second. Yeah. Okay, so this time I'm actually gonna go back and look at that for a second. I want to see how you macroed this. Okay, so I like your lings. It was good. You made 10 lings. You have 2 more in production right now. I think that's totally fine. I think the only mistake you're making here, though, is right here. So, right now, once again, talking about that tumor, right?
Yeah.
That's number 1. The second thing is your...
Move my queen out.
Exactly. Your placement. Your queen needs to be... Your queen needs to smack his adepts as fast as you can to make him shade sooner. So you have less pressure on your drones to your natural while you chase the shade. And your drone kind of chills for a while, so you don't actually force that to happen. And then you don't... where the adepts are right now, I would not tell you, attack them with your lings right there. Do not do that. Like if your queen is up there is what I mean. You want basically all your lings can like let's just say where he is right now. Your queen smacks his ass and he shades right there. Okay, and then he like walks past the queen and he's like, "Oh, fuck the queen! I'm gonna run for your drones." You would tell all your lings to chase the shade into your main, and you would like green box half of them and then tell them to attack the adept. It's okay if you attack the adept as it passes the queen and it gets closer to the hatchery, because your lings will actually punish the adepts if they run to your mineral line. So like what's happening is basically is you're cutting down the amount of time the adept has to have a choice to like fight the lings. Like it's basically like you're what it means is your lings will actually be engaging the adepts when they have about only 3 seconds left on their shade, which is a 7-second cast. You're not engaging them before they started it entirely, or like when it's at 7 of 7 and they have all 7 seconds to kill lings. So they only have a couple seconds left to kill your lings is the point, which means you're going to lose less of them, because you are going to lose lings when you don't have speed. And then your other lings are just chasing the shade. And the shades, if they commit to it, should be getting picked up by the other half of your lings and the other queen. And then ideally, to get rid of it quickly, you have them focus fire it. So that is like you have to micro it like this, otherwise you're always going to take damage.
Cool. So move up the queen, inject, or wait for them to like either commit for it and shade, and then split and chase the shade with half of them.
Yeah, and then you only have to do it the first time. It like literally like the depths will be in your base for all of seriously like 20 seconds, which is like the amount of time for him to cast the shade, either commit to it or cancel it. Cooldown happens, and then he starts into second shade, and during like right after the time of like the second shade, if he does it immediately after the first one, right around the time the second shade comes to a completion, either whether he commits to it or cancels it again, that is when your speed's going to be done. So yeah, then it doesn't matter. Then you just fucking run him over, basically. Because yeah, like what's happening is you're losing too many lings for an optimal micro, which is making you make more lings, which is basically killing your drones because you have to make lings because of that. And then you're on top of that also losing some drones. So it's just kind of falling apart. It's putting you in the, like, you're getting screwed basically in this early game scenario. And another thing you can do, if you want to be a cheesy ass Zerg player, okay? This is something you can do that it's very clever. It will delay your third a little bit, but it will guarantee you will not lose drones. What you can do as well, if you want to be a cheesy boy, and again, you can try this if you want to. It just if you're struggling for now and you just want to try it, what you can do is you can not make lings at all, and you can make only drones until your ling speed's done, and you can make like Evo chambers in front of your natural, and you can wall your base off. But you don't finish them. You don't finish them. You just you could even like send a drone to your third, but don't build it yet. Wait till you have enough money to build it, and you could like make the Evo. You could cancel it when it's almost done and rebuild it immediately. And you'd only have to do like 2 rounds of Evos, and then you make lings, and then you'd have speed, and you could kill the adepts. You could do that too if you wanted to, and it would only take 3 Evos in this map.
I wonder how like how Protoss punishes that, or it's just like he would just expenditure.
Yeah, he would just stand there and smack the fucking Evos. And honestly, it wouldn't be like, I would say against a standard Protoss who goes like 1 gate Nexus and then later on takes a 2nd gate, you don't need to do that, because by the time he has 2 adepts anyways, you'll have speed. But against a Protoss player who makes 2 gates first like this and double chronos them, it would actually work against someone who does that. But it wouldn't work on every map though, is the thing, which is why I'm saying it's not actually something you could do all the time, because other maps have more exposed naturals, or where you like the creep doesn't even touch the wall at all until you have a creep tumor, and that would
then the timing's off.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have enough time to actually block them out. So it's not something I would say you need to, that should become your new style. But if you wanted to try that, you could literally do that if you wanted to.
If I don't react into it.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, just really, I would say just work on the whole, the microing of the lings properly and the queen against the adepts, and you'll have such a better early game. And right now, I like that you killed the adepts in the map, but I don't like that you engaged at his natural. I think waiting around his third base would have been great, because the power of, I will say this, the one power of speedlings, the fucking main power of speedlings is to not let them have a third base. So you want to only take fights that you know you're going to crush, like if he's exposed in the middle of nowhere. Otherwise, and you also don't want to put yourselves in situations where you have to always remake lings. You just want to keep making sure his third gets delayed as much as you can. And if you look at the timer, you should know this. if your opponent takes a third base that is anything later than 5 minutes, every 10 seconds that goes by or every second that goes by, you're getting further ahead and further ahead and further ahead and further ahead and further ahead. Because a standard Protoss third should be down by 5 minutes if he's macroing. And if he's not taking a third by 5 minutes, that is also probably when you should also be doing things more aggressively, like scouting him, like maybe poke a ling in the doorway, because you also might be getting all in.
Cool.
Yo, Impulse, thank you very much for the sub. Andy Wolf, thank you for the sub. Wildcard, Lucky JJC, thank you for the subs, boys. I will talk to you guys again in a second after coaching lessons over. Okay. No, you know what? It's fine. I was gonna say your Hydra is a bit early, but it's really not. It's just because you've lost a lot of drones again, unfortunately. But yeah, your build's fine though. And I think this game, it's not just the fact that your drones have died too. It's that I think you're like we just talked about a second ago. I think you're exposing a little bit too many of your lings, and you're putting yourselves in a situation where you might be spending too many. Like you're making too many lings. Is my point. Like the amount of lings you have right now is a lot. And I would say you only really want to make them if you have no choice to go Roach for now. And I know you're gonna. It looks like you're gonna go for a Ling Bane Hydra style, but
Yeah.
Against styles of Protoss who play like this really heavily, where they go adepts, especially that he's going sentries. I think if you were going for like Roach Ravager, I would prefer that so much more than a Ling style. The only reason why is because I think a Ling style against someone who goes like Stalker, Zealot, Adept, Stalker, Zealot, maybe Adept, maybe Sentry, maybe Immortal. I think Lings can work. They can be fine, especially if you combine them with like Ravagers or Banes or Hydras. But I think the one scary thing though that you'll run into here and there, which will get you auto losses, is when you run into Protoss players who will go for Sentry-based builds and they will go for Colossus. And if you're going Ling heavy there, you're just gonna die.
Yep.
Yeah, like I think going like so the thing about Ling openers is opening on Lings is great. It's it gives you lots of advantages. You can shut the adepts down. You can make the third be delayed, but then going back into Lings, once you have once you're in that late game scenario, then that's fine again because then it's not just like mostly Lings. Now it's paired with Ling Bane Hydra, and you have a fuckload of Hydras. You can go maybe into Lurkers or something as well. You might go into Broodlords. You just have way more options there. And Lings actually have way more of an impact at that point. But if the Lings aren't really supported by anything, and they're the main unit, it's definitely going to put you in these games where you could totally get all in and die. So too many Lings at this point, I would say.
Okay.
Sorry, feel free as well. I know sometimes I hear the sounds of it sounds like you're gonna say something and then I keep talking. But if you ever want to like interrupt me, you're by all means you can totally do that.
Okay. If you can go forward a bit in this one, I eventually go into Lurker because I see that he's going for the Colossus.
Yeah.
And there's an engagement there which I try to do and doesn't quite. I'm guessing you can improve the plan there.
Yeah.
Because I knew I don't have time to get to Broodlords or like Lurker with range,
Yeah.
which would be better. So when I see he's coming towards me with the Colossus, I went for a lot of Banes and Lurkers, and I think it was almost a hold.
Yeah.
I wonder if it could have been.
I would say in this scenario, right when you saw him, right here, right now, you just saw him because this is your reaction because your Overlord just died, and you're like, oh fuck, Colossus gateway move out, and my army is mostly Lings. The better way to take this fight, I would say, it sounds crazy, but Banes or Lings both suck here. The reason why is because Banes would be good if you had a lot of Hydra, and you also could flank him and like come in from a lot of angles. Like we're talking your supply right now would need to be like 200 supply for Banes to be effective here. Banelings only really work if you just have overwhelming amounts of shit and you come in from a lot of angles. Especially against century-based timings of Protoss. So what the best way I would say you could deal with this instead would be to actually just run all of your just your Zerglings. Just send all your Zerglings around him because you know he's attacking you right now, and like you know it looks like he's moving out. Run your Lings down below on the bottom side and go to his third base around him, and then when he gets here, and he confirms on your other Overlord right now. I think Overlord placement was great, by the way. I think having some type of a scout was wonderful because it would have given you the ability to actually do this properly. And now you're like, oh, yep, nope. Your Lings right now would be like south of his third if you would have ran right away. And now you could be like, okay, Lings, run into his fucking third base immediately. And what I'm going to do now is if it comes down to it, we're going to trade base for base. I'll kill his third while he kills my fourth. Which means I still maintain one base ahead of Protoss. And while he's killing my fourth, I do not try to defend it, but instead I make lurkers. And while you're making lurkers, you make more hydras, make more whatever the fuck you're going to make. Roaches, probably hydras. Because if you're going lurker hydra works great. But if you don't have enough gas for it, then maybe roaches. Because roaches are just cheaper. But again, the point is, though, is if you would have made lurkers and just sacked a base while you traded a base, you would have actually had a good chance to win this game. But making Banes is like a guaranteed loss here. If this guy has decent force fields, because there's no realistic way you should ever be able to engage from one angle against Colossus Sentry. Like I just imagine. Or go ahead. Sorry.
I tried to split my forces up here, like above and below.
Okay.
And dive him with the lurkers, but okay. So if you say that.
Because think about it like this, okay? If I was this Protoss, this is how I would abuse what you're about to do. If I was like, oh fuck, this Zerg has a lot of Banes. Okay. I would actually not walk up that ramp anymore. I would walk back down that ramp, and I would just cast one force field next to the rocks, and I completely eliminate the ability for you to attack from that angle, and then I could cast force fields on the left side or the top side of my army if you engaged with other pieces of your army. And I don't even have to kill you here. I don't have to necessarily win the game right now. I could just force field your army and whittle it down and break it apart, and then once I whittle it down, I could back up, regroup with a new army, and then recommit to another timing again. And if I force units out of you while also killing a lot of your existing ones, it makes a good position for Protoss. Because this is a lot of fucking Banes that just got made, so it's a lot of gas. Like I would like, because if you think about it too, think about how many Banes you just made. You made 36 Banes. That could have been lurkers. Like each one of those Banes is worth 100 gas, and that's 9 lurkers worth of gas right there.
Yeah, but I thought that like because I don't have range on the lurkers, the Colossus outrange them, if I remember correctly.
They do.
So I was thinking that I can't just go for lurkers.
But the thing is though, is it takes forever for lurkers to get killed by Colossus as well. So one thing you could do as well here, if this was the position you're in and you're like, ah shit, okay, like we got Colossus, we got like, you know, the timing that's coming to you. What you could do as well is you could just make lurkers and you could make queens. Like you could make like maybe like 4 extra queens right now just to inject your bases, or 3 extra queens, and you could grab all of your existing queens and you could place them over the lurker, because a queen and a Colossus have the exact same range. Sorry, it's not exactly true. A queen would have to move forward like a step to smack the Colossus, but your queens could actually shoot the Colossus with their anti-air attack, and they could also transfuse here and there whenever something gets shot. And 2 Colossus are going to take for fucking ever to kill your army. So if his Colossus poke your queens or poke your lurker and then back up, you could counter poke him with the queen and transfuse whatever takes damage. But the lurkers are going to really prevent him from really pushing you with the real DPS of his army, which is all the stalkers and the immortals and the zealots. Because if he does push you, your lurkers are going to take great trades as well.
Okay.
And then you have to also consider the fact that if you actually were also at the same time counterattacking him with Lings, there might also be a good chance that he won't just sit there and poke you with Colossus. Maybe he'll feel more pressured to get some shit done quickly because he's like, fuck, my third's dying right now. Let's just push into those Colossus. A lot of players like to play impatient like that. So then you suddenly get a way better trade because he doesn't just sit there forever. He actually feels pressured now. Because we haven't even seen the fight yet, but I imagine these Banes are going to wash up against sentries and die. This guy actually kills the rocks. Okay. That makes it a little bit better for you. Okay. He's also not casting force fields. Oh, Jesus Christ. But this, I would say if this Protoss player just moved back, and he as he moved back, he just threw down quickly like some force fields. And he starts thinning out your army, and or if he does it really well, he could actually completely block your army from one side. The perfect way this guy could have fucked you over. I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly how you will get fucked over like this against like higher Protosses. If he just cuts one side of your army off, the best side to do as well would have been the south side because you have lurkers there. So if he goes like force fields against that wall to the left of your lurker, and he casts like 6 force fields or something in a line that go from left to right, it doesn't have to necessarily make a full wall yet, but it makes all the units below that force field line have to now run to the right to get out. And if he runs to the right as you run to the right, and there's barely any Banes on the top right side, where even if he runs into those, let's say there's like 10 Banes up there or something, even if he runs into it, his whole army's not going to die. Or if he A moves towards it, maybe he'll pop a lot of them before they actually kill you. He could run to the right and cast the remaining force fields as you're trying to squeeze through the right side as well. Some of your Banes might get through, but your lurkers definitely won't because they're all the way in the back right now for where that positioning would be. And basically, my point is he could actually abuse you with force fields and kill your base and not lose his whole army. Or he could just back up and cast force fields in a semicircle around his army and just get one volley of like Colossus swipes, Stalker hits, and he could do a decent amount of damage to your army as well. And take like he'd only lose energy on his army basically, not actually lose units. So he kind of fucked up the force fields because he still gave you 2 avenues to attack him, and then he allowed the Banes to connect to some of his sentries in the back, which is the left side. And that was good for you that happened because now you've killed some of his control of the fight. And like even though that happened, it's still good for Protoss. But that's like a better case scenario for you at least. That now he can't force field you as much. But yeah, the Banes are just gonna get fucked again. Like force fields can totally just ruin Banes over and over like that. That was a good force field. And then I'll as well, I would say don't ever don't ever move your lurkers unless you have hive tech upgrades for lurkers. So the only way you move them is you zone him. So if you have like let's say a changeling scouting where he goes, or creep sees where he goes, or something like that, always put yourself in position before he gets there. But as soon as he gets there, concave your lurkers out so that if he engages you, he has to run into lurkers. But don't ever actually engage. And if you're like, fuck, I don't have enough army to fight this and I'm feeling pressured, just do the queen thing we talked about. And that's how you can like stall time. Were you gonna say something? Okay.
No, just listen.
Okay. So the queen thing will help a lot, and then yeah, like if we think about how much effectiveness those Banes had compared to how much effectiveness your Lings could have had, especially since they're +1, like look at his third base. You could fucking wreck that thing so fast with +1 Lings. And if you actually would kill his third base with your +1 Lings, he either goes like recalls, goes home, you kill a bunch of probes before that happens because +1 Lings will fucking murder probes pretty fast. Like you're gonna guaranteed get a lot more done there that way than making Banes. And then with that time with the gas as well that doesn't get made into Banes, like I said, you make more lurkers, which makes it even easier to defend if he does just go YOLO and attack you. And then you also have the ability to go into like a hive. And then I don't mind that you made even more Lings, because if you made more Lings too in that situation, if let's say you made a bunch of lurkers, a hive, and Lings, your first round of Lings could go attack his third, and your second round of Lings could once again go attack his third or go attack his natural now. Like look at his natural, he has 1 zealot. Like this guy is so fucking vulnerable to counterattacks right now. So, yeah. And I think this is one of those games too, where this is why I'm not gonna. This is a good. I think this is a good example of this type of situation. This is why StarCraft 2 can sometimes be such a fucking confusing game, because if you play this game and you go, damn, my Ling Bane is actually kind of breaking his army down a bit. Like Ling Bane Lurker didn't seem like I made the wrong choice here. Like maybe you look at the loss and you go, maybe I lost because maybe I took too much damage from the early game. Maybe I, you know, I just didn't have a certain situation. Maybe my creep spread wasn't right, or you could look at it and look at it in multiple ways and say like maybe there's some reasons why you lost. But the real reason why you lost is 100% because Ling Bane is fucking not great against Colossus Sentry. Lurkers are great, but yeah. This Protoss is not abusing sentries nearly as well as he could. So it's like my point I'm trying to make here is it might be misleading to the fact that where it makes you think that maybe actually going Ling Bane and smashing into his army was actually the right call here. And it definitely was counterattacking his base without Banes at all and just making lurkers. Like
Okay.
Banes are really useful against pretty much everything Protoss has except for just basically the robo units. Aside from a mortal, because Protoss always has a mortal. But like, if we're talking like the Protoss goes to like robo bay like units like a Colossus or a Disruptor, you don't really want Banes as much against that either one of those kinds of compositions, because you're usually going to take shitty trades. But Banes against like Templar based tech, like High Templar, a lot of gateway units, then they're great, because especially against High Templar based armies, because you just spread them out and you roll all over his army and you force storms, which waste his energy. You might also kill the Templar, which blows up all of the energy. Things like that. And meanwhile, you're also killing, shitloads of zealots in the process, which is the big one too. Like, it's amazing against zealot-based compositions, which is usually what Templar-based compositions are as well, because Templars are so gas-heavy that the trade-off is they make zealot. Colossus aren't nearly as gas-heavy because he's not making Colossus out of 8 robos or something. He's making Colossus out of like 1 or 2 robos. So the gas is allowed to go for something more like Stalker. Yeah, but so like Banes are just great against different kinds of compositions, not necessarily so much against like Colossus, Stalker. That's when Lurkers shine really well. Oh, yeah. And if you have the Hive Tech upgrades though for Lurker, that's really when you can start shoving into the Colossus and being like, I run really fast, I burrow really quick, and you guaranteed to get like 1 or even 2 swipes of your Lurker on top of his army before he gets away from you. But before that, if you ever run at his army, you should... The only way that will ever work is if you have like something that's going to surround him. That's the only time that ever makes sense. Is if you're like, okay, I'm flanking him with a bunch of my other army. Lurkers are going to come in from this side, and I'm going to shove him with Lurker plus surround army. He can't move. I burrow, and then I get a good cleave. Then sure. If the situation ever was like that, then that makes sense. But if you're just trying to like shove Lurkers with just layer tech Lurkers, and it's just Lurkers, you should always expect to take more damage than it's going to do. And I know you're panicking right now because you're going to die either way. But you would have been better off just having Lurkers be defensive, and if you zoned instead with more of them, you would have been fine.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man. I will say, last little note here to make. Your macro, because this is a diamond, your macro is actually not as much of your problem as I thought it was going to be. It's really your micro, honestly, like your choices. I think you're ahead of the curve of where you're at. I think if you just fix up your micro in certain spots, you'll definitely see a lot of results.
Yeah, the games I lose are usually the 2-game example we saw where I'm like, I get behind because I get hit in the early game.
Yeah.
But most of my games, I get ahead in economy, then I lose a fight, and then I die.
Yeah, that's
My the fighting element of RTS I'm not so good at.
Yeah, it comes in time. But like just like the few things we talked about already, like those kinds of situations are going to make you so much better against Protoss with and I think those two games are also really good examples too, because those are really common scenarios where you deal with adepts, you deal with like people who go for like sentry based timings, and you also deal with people who go for sky toss. Like that kind of shit happens all the time. So if you clean up those builds like that, like, you know, that the way you fight their armies, that's going to help you so much too. Not only because it's going to help you against those common playstyles, but once you start really kind of realizing, oh shit, okay, this makes a lot of sense. This is how to be efficient with this kind of an army. It starts like expanding your mind on how to think about how you use other armies, and then it like getting into micro at first feels really overwhelming, but then once you start really getting into it and like realizing how to play shit efficiently, everything else starts like clicking and falling into place. Is probably the best way to explain it. And obviously you'll still have questions here and there, but things just start becoming easier to read. So yeah, man.
Cool.
I think good shit. Yeah.
It was great. I had fun. And it's now like 2 a.m. where I live, so I'm gonna sleep.
Thanks, dude. You live in I'm gonna guess France.
Israel.
Okay, never mind. I was way off. You might have already told me that as well, but I just when I'm talking to you, you remind me of someone I know, which is it's Todd, by the way.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, you sound a lot like him. All right, man. I hope you have a good rest of your night. Go get some sleep, and thanks.
Good night.
Thanks again for the coaching lesson, dude.
Thank you.
All right, later, dude.
Bye.
All right, guys. That was a coaching lesson brought to you by me and my boy, Mr. It's so crazy. People always use multiple names, but it was Asi or Hyrock. I think I'll call him Asi. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, go check out more videos if you want to learn more. Lots and lots of coaching lessons already on the YouTube. It's you know, if you're watching this on Twitch, I know I have a YouTube as well, where you just type !YouTube in the channel. I have a coaching session all over there. But anyways, yeah, you guys get it. It's a coaching lesson, and we're done now. So thank you for watching. Subscribe if you liked it. I'll see you in another one. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.